All right, welcome AB Stats. This is a notes for Chapter 5. We're going to try doing this on a video. And so for Chapter 5, what we're going to look at is actually how to collect the data. We've been looking at how to analyze it once it's been given to us. And what we're going to do now is look at how can we collect data from either a survey or from an experiment, and to do that well, there's a few things that we're going to need to discuss. So the first objective that we're going to go through is understanding methods of data collection. The second one is understanding concepts of planning and conducting a survey. Right. And the last one is understanding concepts of planning and conducting an experiment. Okay, so this chapter has a lot of vocabulary in it, and so they're mostly bulleted in the notes, and then if you look at the very last page of your notes, they're all there repeated so that you can make flashcards, and that's what I would recommend for this chapter, is definitely making flashcards. All right, so data collection, first thing we're going to start off with, sample. It's a subset of the population that has the same characteristics as the population. We've talked about this before. The population is the entire group of individuals that we want information about. An observational study: observe individuals and measure variables of interest, but do not attempt to influence the responses. So here you're just observing what's happening. You're not having any influence over what happens. An experiment is different. You deliberately impose some treatment on individuals in order to observe their response. So this you have control over. You separate people into two groups and look at how they respond to something that you do. So either a taste test, or you put them through some program and like SAT readiness, and then compare those students who took the SAT readiness courses versus students who didn't, and see if there's a difference. There you're putting people in groups, and so that's considered an experiment. A census attempts to contact every individual in the entire population to get information from them. Bias is something that systematically favors a certain outcome. I'll continue to talk about that. All right, when we talk about sampling, there's different types of sampling methods. Okay, some are better than others, and so you are going to need to know the different types of methods, and then also which ones are best. Okay, so sampling: voluntary response sample is the first one. Consists of people who choose themselves by responding to a general appeal. It's usually biased, since only people with strong opinions, especially negative ones, are most likely to respond. So something like phone-in surveys, something like that. Sometimes when people advertise a survey on a particular website, you're just choosing to respond if you want to answer the question. So again, people who usually feel strongly one way or the other tend to volunteer themselves to be in this. The second one, convenient sample: choosing individuals that are easiest to reach. Okay. Simple random sample. This is one of the main ones, so you can put a little star next to that or highlight it. This is one of the ones that we're always going to want to use. Simple random sample, it's also known as SRS, of size n, consists of n individuals from the population chosen in such a way that every set of n individuals has an equal chance to be in the sample. Okay, so everybody has the equal opportunity to be collected in the sample. Every size n. So if you're taking like a sample size of 20, every sample sizes of 20 are equally likely. So the second one, and this one we will also use a lot, is called the stratified random sample. And so first you divide the population into groups of individuals, which are called strata. So it's some characteristic that you know about them that are similar in some way that is important to the response. And then choose a simple random sample of each stratum and combine these two or more simple random samples to form the full sample. So for example, in the class, we could split it up guys versus girls, and if we somehow think that's going to affect things and we want to separate guys versus girls, and then take a simple random sample of 5 girls and then 5 guys. Okay, so we're still using the simple random sample technique, but you're separating it and putting a requirement of having 5 girls and 5 guys guaranteed in the sample. You could also do it by grade. So instead of guys versus girls, if we thought juniors versus seniors had some sort of impact on it, we can say we wanted to make sure we have 5 seniors in our sample and 5 juniors in our sample, and select them from the classes. Another one, probability sample. Sample chosen by chance. Have to know that what samples are possible and what chance or probability each possible sample has. We're not going to use this one too much. Cluster sample divides the population into groups or clusters. Some of these clusters are randomly selected, then all the individuals in the chosen clusters are selected to be in the sample. Okay. So there's a key word there that was all the individuals right here. Okay. All the individuals are chosen from that cluster. And then the multi-stage sample selects successively smaller groups within the population in stages, resulting in a sample consisting of clusters of individuals. Okay. So you're definitely going to need to keep track of the difference between a cluster sample and a multi-stage sample. Those are the two that'll be hardest to tell the difference between. Okay. The key about a cluster sample is that you're going to select all of the individuals at the end. Versus a multi-stage, you consistently can random sampling. Okay, so for example, cluster sample. If we take the school, we could divide the departments. So you're going to randomly select one of the departments. So say you select math. You randomly select a teacher. You randomly select a period. But then once you get there, then you sample all the individuals in that class. Okay, so if we got chosen, you'd select all the individuals in either period 2 or period 1. You guys are both listening to this. Okay, so you take everybody in the class. Versus the multi-stage sample, what happens is you continue to randomly select. So randomly select a department, so say you get science. Randomly select a teacher, randomly select a period, and at the end you're still randomly selecting, say, 20 students from that class. You're not taking all of them. So that's the main difference between the cluster and the multi-stage, is that in a cluster you end up selecting everybody once you get to that smaller subset. Okay, a couple examples. Decide what kind of sample was taken. So example 1, the American Family Association, AFA, is a conservative group that claims to stand for traditional family values. It regularly posts online poll questions on its website. Just click on a response and take part. Okay. So we want to think about which type of these samples was used in this example. Okay, so kind of think about it. And this is going to be a voluntary response. And the reason is that only people who, first of all, are on this website are going to see this question or this survey, and then most likely it's a conservative group and they're asking questions about traditional family values. People who feel passionately about this are going to be on that website to begin with and respond to this question. Okay, so it's not just open to everybody, and most likely it's just the people who want to participate in the online survey will. Example 2, manufacturers in advertising agencies often use interviews at shopping malls to gather information about the habits of consumers and the effectiveness of ads. So they're just taking interviews at shopping malls to gather information from a lot of people. So there's no random sampling, there's no probability involved. What this is a convenient sample. Okay, so it's just convenient to stand at a mall and get lots of people to walk by, and so that's considered a convenient sample. All right, on to the next page. Example 3, suppose you want to survey opinions of AP Stat students to see if they feel they have enough time on the free response section of the AP exam. One option would be to begin with a list of all schools that had students who took the AP Stat exam. A number of schools will be randomly selected from the list of all schools represented. Every student at the selected school who took the AP exam is asked if he or she thought they had enough time allowed to complete the free response portion of the exam. Oh, sorry. They thought the time allowed was adequate. Okay, so there's a couple key things in this. When they look at a list of all the schools, a number of schools will be randomly selected, and then what happens? It's every student at the selected school who took the AP exam is asked. So in that category, when every student at the end is asked to participate, and this is called a cluster sample. The thing is here, because we have every student gets selected, and also they're randomly selected from the list of all schools, and then every student is selected after that. So that's an example of a cluster sample. All right, example 4. To estimate the cost of malpractice insurance, a researcher found it convenient to view the population of all doctors practicing in the metropolitan area as being made up of 4 subpopulations: surgeons, internists and family practitioners, obstetricians, and a group that includes all other areas of specialization. Rather than taking a random sample from the population of all doctors, the researcher could take 4 separate random samples, one from each group. These 4 samples would provide information about the 4 subgroups as well as information on the overall population of doctors. So you have 4 different groups, and then it says it's randomly going to select from each of those groups. So what is this an example of? Okay, so this is going to be an example of a stratified random sample. So they're using a random sampling technique, but they're doing it from each of the 4 groups, so it's going to be, that's why it's called stratified. All right, example 5. Mr. Sanders decided to try a new strategy for his volleyball team. He decided to put each of the 11 girls' names on pieces of paper and put them in a hat. He then randomly pulled out 6 names, and those 6 girls got to start in the next volleyball game. Okay, so he took all the players, put the names in the hats, randomly select 6. What kind of example is that? Okay, it's going to be a simple random sample. Okay, each of those 6 names are equally likely to be chosen. Okay, there's all those different kinds, so that's why it is a simple random sample.